Good morning. It's good to see everyone's here. It's good to see some people that were sick, aren't sick anymore, and are back with us. And it's always good to see guests in the audience, too. You are our honored guests, and if there's any way we can help you serve Jesus, please let us know. We're not a perfect people, but we try to be a loving people, and we do serve a perfect Lord. And if you want to join up with that, we'd be glad to, get you connected with a Bible study, get you involved in some area of service. We'd love to just help you know Him. As we begin our lesson this morning, I want to throw out a statement, and the statement's intended to be slightly controversial, so we all pay attention, because that's what attention getters are supposed to do, right? Here's it. Maybe we shouldn't call ourselves Christians. That's a pretty big one, right? Okay, what is he saying? This idea of calling ourselves, well, let's back up just for a second. I do call myself a Christian. I am a Christian. I believe we are a Christian church, that kind of thing. And I adhere to the Christian teachings of the Bible, all that kind of stuff like that. However, maybe using the title Christian isn't the best one. Now, that word Christian, it comes from a Greek word, Christianos, which it's just a transliteration of it, okay? There's some different theories on how that word came about. The I-N-S, ending on the end is something to be part of something else. If you're a Thessalonian, you're from Thessalonica, that kind of idea. Ephesians, you're from Ephesus. Christians means you're kind of from Christ, belonging to Christ. However, there is also some evidence out there that maybe this was designed to be an insult even at one time, because that idea of that I-A-N-S ending was maybe like little Christ, like, oh, you're just a bunch of those little Christs running around out there, kind of that kind of idea. And you might see a little bit of that in the New Testament. But this word Christian, although we use this word all the time, okay, constantly. You hear people say constantly, I am a Christian. Sometimes people that say it, you're like, yeah, you are. And other times people, you go, oh, no, you're not part of our team, right? Because all sorts of people wear the title Christian. All sorts of people claim to be Christians, and push comes to shove. In fact, you might talk to somebody, they might go, well, I guess I'm Christian. You might hear something along those lines. Now, that word itself, Christian, is only found 3 times in the Bible. That's it. So that word that we use as the kind of the foundation of our entire faith, that word Christian, 3 times in the Bible it's used. You're probably familiar with this if you've been a Christian for some time. You see, I'm throwing the word out there already, right? You're familiar with some of these verses. For example, Acts chapter 11, verse 26, it talks about being Paul brought before there in Antioch, and for a whole year Barnabas and Saul met with the church and taught a great number of the people. And the disciples were first called Christians there, or called Christians first, in Antioch. And it's just kind of made as a passing statement. The question is, why were they called that? And was it a good thing or a bad thing? That means later we'll figure that out. But in Acts chapter 26, verse 28, a verse that you've probably heard before, Paul's standing before Agrippa. Agrippa says to him, do you think that in a short time you can persuade me to be a Christian? Like, hey, you're kind of getting me close to it. Do you think you can make this happen? And then the other passage where the word Christian is used is in 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 16, where it says, however, if you suffer as a Christian, do not be ashamed, but praise God that you bear that name. So only 3 times in the New Testament is this word actually used. Now, as you start looking at church history, it started to be used more. And especially from like 1 Peter onward out there, early Christians would use this term, and they'd refer to themselves that way, and early church writings do use the term Christian. So it is a very much an ancient historical word to talk about us, okay? But this word Christian, though, since it's only used 3 times in the New Testament, you're probably already thinking this. Well, then what were they called? Because in fact, Christian is not the normal word used in reference to the followers of Jesus. In fact, it's pretty much not used at all. Except for those couple instances there, this would be just a blip on the radar, that word Christian. There's another word, though, that's used a ton. And in fact, the word that's used is a word that carries with kind of the modern day meaning of apprentice. I Googled apprentice linemen, because you get people, they're electricians and stuff, that they work underneath another lineman, and they learn the process of working on the electrical lines, working on the poles. They shadow them. They do what they do. They learn their skills. They copy their behaviors, and then later on they become, an electrician or something themselves. we use that term apprentice often. And I really think that word apprentice is the best definition of this word that I'm going to put on the screen. And it's the word that's used the most to describe followers of Christ. And in fact, I heard some of you guys already whispering it there in the audience. It's the word disciple. Disciple. In fact, on Tuesday night in the elders meeting, this came up in conversation. Then I wandered into the teen class or the young adults group that they got going on Tuesday nights too, and they were talking about this same thing. I'm thinking, God's trying to tell me something, so we're going to talk about it this morning. The word disciple, not Christian, the word disciple is used 260 times in the New Testament. It's defined as a pupil, a follower, or an apprentice. That's the word primarily that's used to describe followers of Jesus, not the word Christian. Now, I'm not saying the word Christian is a bad word to use, okay? You can use it all you want, and I'm sure I'm not going to be able to change it on any publication anytime soon, okay? But the word disciple is the primary word that's used. About 260 times, depending on how it's used, that word's there. Versus 3 times, the word Christian is used. In fact, in just the book of John alone, 78 times the word disciple is used. We need to pay attention to this word. And I think this word is important because this word isn't viewed as necessarily a title. We use Christian often as a title, like I am a Christian, or this is a Christian church. My kids go to a Christian school. I went to a Christian bookstore. I participated in Christian aerobics, whatever that might be. You know what I mean? People use that word a lot. Again, not bad to use it. However, maybe we've forgotten some meanings behind some terms, and maybe a light bulb should go off a bit at the fact that the word disciple is the word that's used over 200 times to describe us. Now, as we look at the Gospel of John, with it being used 78 times, a lot of it is the disciples went here, and they were added to the disciples, and the number of the disciples grew, things like that. However, there are at least 3 times that I've found there in the book of John where disciples are described. And what I want us to do this morning is I want us to look at those 3 passages really quickly, and then I'm going to make some application from this. Because the ultimate point that I want you to get, so I'm going to skip ahead to the conclusion right now. The point that I want to get across this morning is that being a Christian means being a disciple. A disciple is an apprentice of Jesus. Disciples do what Jesus did. We need to have our discipleship be a lifestyle. It's not just a title we wear. And maybe because we use the word Christian so much, we've forgotten that. And we've made it just into something that we put next to our name. Cliff Sabro, Christian. But are we living like it? Is it clear? Is it obvious? Let's talk about it. In John chapter 8, in verse 31, Jesus himself is talking there, and he was saying to the Jews who had believed him, he says, if you continue in my word, then you are truly disciples of mine. And you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. A disciple, I get from this passage, then, is one that continues to know, to abide in, to follow the word of Jesus. There's a descriptor here. It's not, you're a disciple, you're not a disciple. It's disciples are those who do something. If you continue in is an ongoing action. See, sometimes we make Christianity into a punctiliar event. We say, I became a Christian then. We write it in our Bibles. I was baptized September 24th, 19, whatever. That kind of thing. And we make it a one-time event. But discipleship is bigger than that. It's not, I became a disciple, end of story. It's, I continue to live as a disciple. Jesus said, if you continue in my word, you are truly disciples, followers, apprentices of mine. Is the way he lays out. So number 1, a disciple is someone that continues in Jesus' word. He's not talking about, you study your Bible all the time either. He's talking about you try to follow it. His words live in you, and you do what they say. That's what it means to be a disciple. Other passage that describes disciples, John chapter 13, verse 34. He says, a new commandment I give to you. Love one another as I have loved you. So you must love another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you have the name on your church building. No, he says, if you love one another. Again, notice, it's not a title. Yes, I know it can be considered that, but you understand what he's emphasizing here? It's something that we do. Discipleship is seen in us loving other people. So it's not, well, I became a disciple. It's, I am a disciple. I live a life of constant discipleship. My discipleship is evidence in the fact that I love other people. And that ongoing action of love is what proves us to be a disciple. Again, an action. And I love how Jesus lays it out here. Here's this command, new commandment for you. What I need you to do, love each other. Love each other, just as I have loved. That's like an apprenticeship. We look at the boss over here. We look at the master, the one who has it figured out. We model our behavior after him. He loved us. We love others. Disciples love. And then finally, number 3 verse in John that describes a disciple. John chapter 15, verse 8, Jesus said, when you produce much fruit, you are my true disciples, and this brings great glory to my Father. So again, it's not a title, it is something you do. Discipleship is seen in the bearing of fruit. And we've talked about fruit bearing before. It means doing stuff for Jesus. It means, bringing souls to him. It means working for him. It means loving other people. It means giving, all that kind of stuff. It's doing the Lord's work. That is bearing fruit. Disciples are those who bear fruit. So we put these together. A disciple abides in the Word. A disciple loves others. And a disciple bears fruit for God. That's what we are supposed to do. If you want me to put it plainly so even the 5-year-olds in the audience can understand it, so 5-year-olds, listen up. A disciple does stuff. That's it, okay? We are supposed to be active. We are supposed to be working. We're supposed to be involved. It's supposed to be a lifestyle. It's not a title that we wear. It's not something we put on a business card. It's not just a sign on a building. And I think we've made Christian and Christianity into that. I'm not saying it's a bad word to use to talk about us, but maybe if we start emphasizing discipleship more, we'll be more likely to actually work for God. But sometimes it's easy to just phone it in as a Christian. We just make that's a stamp, it's a title, it's a descriptor, but yet a disciple is someone who does something, who's an active participant. A disciple is our identity and our lifestyle. So in your mind, when you start describing yourself, maybe start backing away from the word Christian. Again, not saying you shouldn't use that word, but maybe a good reminder in our mind is to use the word disciple. I changed my Instagram bio a while back to Christ follower because Christian is kind of lost sometimes. No, I'm someone who's actively trying to follow Jesus. Let's be disciples. And again, just in case you're confused, what word you use to describe you really doesn't matter, but how you live does. I want us to live as disciples. And according to Jesus, disciples are those who bear fruit. Now let's get really practical then. One of the things we've been trying to do for the last couple months, and we're going to keep emphasizing here in this congregation, is ways to get all of us, every single person here, actively involved in ministry in some way. Why? Because we want us all to be disciples. We're supposed to be followers of Jesus who are constantly doing his will and trying to glorify him through the kingdom. It's not just, and it's not even a push for attendance, notice that? Because you can just show up and be in attendance. We're looking for disciples. We're looking for people to participate. That's why we're starting with the kids. And what we've been doing for the last several weeks, and this Sunday is going to be today's going to be our last Sunday to do this for now. We're taking up a special contribution from the Manulito children. So we want people from an early age to know, not yet, Liam, it's coming up quick. But we want people from an early age to know it's good to give. And it's part of our discipleship to give. Get involved in that giving aspect. We're going to be taking a mission trip to Manulito in the summer to do some work there for that. Why? Because it's important to be involved in the Lord's work. That's why we're doing it. Not just for the novelty of, oh, it's cute to have the kids do it. Yes, it is cute and it makes for great pictures. But more than that, we're trying to train disciples. The reason why Greg has been out there in the foyer every Sunday with a sign-up list on that table with the yellow sign is we want everybody to get involved in something. And by the way, if you haven't signed up on there, do it. It doesn't matter if you're already involved in stuff. We want to know you want to continue doing what you're doing. I signed up this morning that I'm willing to preach, okay? Just in case there's confusion, because if you don't sign up, you might not get to do that job no more, okay? So elders, deacons, teachers, ministry leaders, everybody, sign up what you're willing to do, because we're going to be trying to put together a master list of ways to get people involved. Because we need people to be disciples, not just Christians. See, we lose it a little bit. I know the word Christian means Christ's follower, but we're not always living like it. So we're trying to make this push to get everybody involved in working. We're trying to build disciples. 260 times the word disciple is used. Let's live a life of discipleship. On Christmas Day, on Sunday, on that 10:30, that service there, we're going to do a special collection for mission work. Everything we give on that Sunday is going to go to support mission work, and we're going to make more opportunities available to you to travel for mission work. Why? Because it's important to be a disciple. We want people involved. The reason why we do events like winter camp and stuff is, oh yes, it's great, but we want you to work. Because working for Jesus builds your faith, and it helps you be a disciple. A disciple is our identity and our lifestyle. Or, let's put it very plainly in a way that's going to make us all a little bit uncomfortable. Just showing up doesn't make you a disciple. Because here's what I fear. We've taken it too well. We stop calling ourselves disciples. We start calling ourselves Christians. Now, we stop calling ourselves Christians. You know what people say? I go to church. I go to church. Yeah, I also go to the gym. Okay? I go to church. Or we go to Chili's every Friday. You know, whatever it is that you do. That's what we've turned it into. It's no longer a lifestyle. It's no longer our identity. It no longer permeates every aspect of our being. Now it's just not even a title. We've turned it into an event, an activity on our schedule, a little blip on our weekly planner. Better add it into that Google Calendar. I go to church then, right? And that's it. We've taken what was supposed to be a lifestyle of complete and utter submission to Jesus Christ, and we've turned it into a couple hours. I said, I go to church, or and if you're really holy, I also go to Bible class. You know, that kind of thing, right? Just showing up doesn't make us disciples. Think about it. A lot of people showed up to see and experience Jesus, didn't they? How many people were there when Jesus gave the Sermon on the Mount? How many people showed up when he fed the 5,000? How many multitudes were there when he healed this and preached there? A lot. A lot of people showed up. But not everyone followed him all the way to the cross. True disciples follow him. True disciples don't just show up and observe. We participate. We live for him. It is our identity and our lifestyle. In Matthew chapter 16 and verse 24, Jesus himself says this. He says, if anyone will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. Jesus called disciples to leave their careers behind and follow him, literally follow him. We say it kind of metaphorically, right? We're like, follow Jesus. I am a follower of Jesus. Now, no, the people that really followed him from the get-go left and went someplace else without even knowing what was going to happen next. And he called them disciples. That's the type of faith we're supposed to have. A type of faith that's when Jesus says, come follow me, we're like, I'm all in, Jesus. Let's do this because I am a disciple. If anyone will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Nothing wrong with using the word Christian if we know what we're using it for. There's nothing wrong with calling ourselves a Christian church if we know what we mean by that. And there's nothing wrong with using the term disciple or follower or apprentice or pupil or student or whatever else you want to use to describe you. But let's make sure that what the term we're using is an accurate descriptor of our lifestyle and not just a title that we wear. We need to be described as disciples. The lesson is yours this morning. If you have a need to become a disciple, you haven't been one, we'd like to help you. We can baptize you into Jesus Christ this morning, and anytime we can too. We don't have a special baptismal service or anything like that. We have that opportunity available anytime. So I just reminding you of that. Anytime, night or day, you go, Cliff, I've been studying my Bible. I believe Jesus is Lord. I want to get baptized. Talk to me. We can do that. Also, if you're here, though, this morning and you do need to talk to somebody right now, I'll be up front here for a verse of a song. There'll be people there in the back to help you too. Why don't you come as we stand and as we sing.